Here's a concern. Maybe it's useless concern, but I want to share related to wisdom and compassion. And considering the current situation, more turbulence in the society, I feel, and tendency of many people want to have money, of course, for their better living, or sometimes fame, because how can you feel important in what you do in life unless other people may respect or you have some kind of a status? So it may be natural, especially for young people, to seek for ways to substantiate what they can do in their life. I went through that, but I always had the sense of what I can contribute. And one idea was, say, engineering. And I see the current technology advancement has impacted so much people, and that's wonderful. But how I see the current situation is that there's a gap of wealth and many people's eagerness to catch up with whatever is happening in the society and establish their life, especially for young people. And for old ones, if they haven't found, like if we old people feel that our life was so limited compared to others who may have succeeded with more wealth and fame, I sense there's a gap of people who feel, and this may be my just imagination, the reality may be different, but those people who are not well established in terms of the society's view of the income or lifestyle, all of that may make people to be more uncomfortable or even sad or desperate in some cases. And that relate to the wealth difference and what you see on the internet, what they offer. And the whole situation seems to indicate that, yes, I don't know if you use the word vacuum, there's not much paying attention to the majority, many high percentage of people feeling, say, neglected or not so happy about what they see in their life. I wrote books to manage better our life, doing whatever we can for each, and have a way to find the meaning in living life. And in the process, learn how to develop a strategy and do what they like and possibly find meaning. But this flood of information on the internet especially, and the wealth gap developed by capitalism, some may call it, that those who may have made billions of dollars and nice residence or the yacht or any of the and the fame may indicate that many people may be left behind. I'm 76. In my case, I don't care much for money anymore. I did care more, but that's not to be felt as something I really needed to have. It's probably it's good to have for the security reason, and more I feel if I have enough and I feel, and unless there's something tragic happens, I'll be okay. And yet I don't want to waste my money, so I'm frugal to live life, and I don't need much. I travel with some of the mileage accumulated so that I can travel without spending much, and found a way that simple life I can maintain helps me. So in light to those society situations and what I see out of that is that most of us can possibly find a way to enrich their lives, and we may have to shift our understanding or the way we look at the world, not to be too much driven by what is promoted in the web and what is happening in terms of the way uh, things happening. I don't know how to explain more clearly, but the bottom line of this, and related to my emphasis on spirituality, and the word probably is the wisdom and compassion. In case of thysetsu, they call big wisdom and big compassion. And his saying I am fond of is that if you eat a chocolate, why wouldn't you want to share the taste of it with others if they haven't had one? And I feel the sense of wisdom, if we can enhance more, or if we realize what the big wisdom or the wisdom is, we may find not much need for living life because of the wealth gap or anything related to money and fame, but rather to find wisdom as the main component of life. Not money and fame are the measurement of success. I feel actually to the point that the highest level of our being to be meaningful for us is to have wisdom and compassion, not the money and fame. Maybe that's the easiest and simple way to say it, but I said it, spending other time up to now just to get the background of where we are and trying to shift us to relate to this message. In the case of Daisetsu, that I was influenced and because of his Zen and Shin Buddhism, or Buddhism in general, is that if you have, let's say, awakening or some wisdom, wouldn't you want to share the fruit of it? If you ate chocolate and it was tasteful, why don't you want to share with others? I don't know if the wealth can be shared and the fame can be shared, and they do, but that is just one dimension, one way of looking at in a conventional manner. But if we are to look into the depth of who we are and what we really appreciate, it's kind of like Maslow's hierarchy, that we have a basic need and the need of belonging, and then further up, uh, at the highest is a self-actualization, which to me is more wisdom and compassion that we find, especially after you may have enough money or the fame, or even without that. So I have gone through my life looking for ways to live, and the fame and money have impacted me, but I try to live without being so much influenced, bothered. And whatever the reason that happened, like if I may just mention about Kenji Miyazawa's poem that living in the small thatched house at the field and helping others, that that's what he wanted to do. Maybe I put that one in the description, and I posted that the poem in one of my books, indicating that that element of sharing and contributing to the world, and have a different measurement of happiness, that when you have wisdom and compassion, that may be the highest level of your being as human. Of course, you have money and fame and can contribute, that may be fine. But when it comes to wisdom and compassion, it will not depend on the other measurement as the highest, but how we share that, communicate that, and process that. First, to live our life individually, and then somehow find a way to send a message by word or action, or even without action, but just the behavior of what we orient our life. I talked about Prince Shotoku, I don't know, 1,500 years ago, whatever he put in the Japanese constitution, the first item was war harmony is to be considered as the most important of our being, or some such thing. And the harmony, to me, is looking at the world working together, not as much competition, but helping each other, the harmony. And he thought that's the first principle of how we should manage or govern the nation. And Daisetsu mentioned that still lives in the way, in the Japanese value system or the culture, and not to point about Japan, but the principle, the idea is what I'm talking about, that can be put in place for each of us to cultivate skills, ideas toward wisdom and compassion, and live accordingly. Otherwise, without such measurement, we may look for someone to help you by money or whatever the skill, and you just wait. That's not self-managing. That's not for us to cultivate wisdom and compassion. I just sense that there's a different dimension, the way we look at the world. And the talk is cheap, I realize that, but this is the thought, the way of thinking, and finding our life somewhat related to this idea of having more importance in cultivating wisdom and compassion, developing skills to relate to that, and not too much emphasis put on money and fame. Or saying it differently, not be too self-centered for those to give or for those to receive, that I don't have it, why don't you give it to me? I have it, I'll give it to you. I mean, that's just one-dimensional way of looking at it. But beyond that, whether the idea of the shotoku from Japan is a good point, but the wisdom and compassion-based society, I think that's something we can work on to try to achieve. And each of us, not waiting someone to do, but rather for each to develop some sense toward that direction. I think that might be quite meaningful. Right now, we have all the technological change and wonderful possibilities being discussed and may come. But if our attitude and behavior and the base of our thinking is shallow, too much brain-oriented but without heart at the center of our being, that's limiting, in my view. So this is a story that may not flow in the typical brain-related way of living, but connecting more to our heart. And find a society with such a notion may be meaningful for us to work on. That's just a thought. If you have any comment, please share. Appreciate it. Thank you.